Alright, so a couple months ago I did a review on the ORQA DreamX, and this is an analog 5-inch freestyle quad. I'll link that video down in the video description in case you missed it. Some people were wondering about the HD ready version, and that's basically the same quad. It's got the same PID tune. It's just that the flight controller swapped out, and that doesn't come with any FPV system. So for those of you that want to know how to put in a digital FPV system into that version, continue watching this video later on. That will be shown. But first I'm going to swap this over to that version where I swap the flight controller. I have the HD version of the F722 flight controller. The analog version is basically the same. It has a Betaflight OSD chip on it. The digital version does not need that, of course, and instead it has a built-in ghost receiver. And you can see the UFO connectors right here. It does come with an antenna, but I'm not going to use the ghost receiver. I'm going to instead use an Express LRS receiver instead. And I'm just using the included cables that came with the flight controller because all of these are plug and play. I'm going to use the UART for GPS. This is actually the GPS cable, but I'm not going to be doing GPS on this one. So just using that UART here. I think it's UART 6. And then the HD plug is on this side over here. Yeah, it's marked HD. And I already soldered on the cable for my Vista. This is the one I'm going to be going with, and it just plugs into right over here. All plug and play. Just got to screw in the parts into the frame and swap out the flight controller. The ESC plug will be this one over here. So I'm just going to take that off of the analog flight controller and then plug the ESC into here. I believe that is pretty much it. So not a whole lot to talk about. I think basically just gonna have to figure out how to install the video transmitter. It's going to go here, and of course this video transmitter, this hybrid one, does come with a ghost receiver in there, so I'm going to obviously remove that, and I'll probably put my Express LRS antenna out of the top here, or the bottom over here. This is one of these with the ceramic antenna, so I'll just stick it over here somewhere on the inside, right over here. So let's go ahead and take the top plate off, and then we'll get this conversion started. Alright, so once you get rid of those screws, and unscrew those, top plate just comes off like this. And then there's this little it's like sort of mini carbon plate in the back here that's holding the XD60, and just gonna have to sort of move this out of the way to get the video transmitter out. I'm going to take the camera out first. Okay, so once you get the screws off for the camera, and then these nuts off on the flight controller, and then there's some nuts for the video transmitter, you should be able to remove everything. There's some glue here on the antenna for the back. I'm gonna have to somehow figure out to get that off, but the camera should just come out. I think the camera just plugs into the flight controller right there. Gotta unplug the ESC right here, and then this is the plug for the video transmitter and ghost receiver. So it should all come out pretty easily. Now notice that this capacitor is in the way. I'm probably gonna have to do something about that. I was hoping I didn't have to solder anything, but I think I'm gonna have to unsolder that and maybe move it to the bottom. There's some space I can see there. Anyway, let's go ahead and start. I'll take the stuff out. I'll come back here, show you what it looks like without anything in there except for the flight controller. Then we'll start adding in the Vista. All right, so I went ahead and installed the Vista here in the back. Turns out that the capacitor can be just bent up. At least in my case, I was able to bend it up there, and it just barely fits. I just didn't use a fourth screw. You can't see, it's kind of in the way. The capacitor gets in the way of that, but it fits fine. And I fished the video cable, the MIPI cable, that's right there. It's under the ESC and comes out over here. So I just have to connect it to the camera, install the camera here, pop on that flight controller. I got my connector here for the Vista, and then the other connector for the receiver. I'm going to install it right there. plug in the ESC. So yeah, it's all plug and play. You don't have to solder or anything, so it's been great. Put that all together and I'll show you what that looks like. Alright, so here's everything installed. Got the Express LRS receiver zip tied to the bottom plate there, and it's one of those ceramic antennas. You can see it's popping out that little hole there, so it should be fine. Got the camera installed. Everything plugged into the flight controller. I did switch the UART from UART4 to UART6 for the receiver, and it was set for Ghost on the protocol. I switched to Crossfire for the Express LRS receiver. When you switch away from UART4 on this particular flight controller, which has the built-in Ghost receiver, it will disable the Ghost receiver when you switch away and disable that UART. So shouldn't be any issues there. And then I think the plug for the HD is also pre-configured from the factory. I forget which UART, I think UART3, I believe, and that's pre-configured from the factory. It's just plug and play, and just gotta basically put the top back on and go and fly it. So I'll go and we'll do a little flight test here and get some narration from me, and I expect it to pretty much be the same because it's about the same weight, with just I'm gonna probably have the Action 2 in the front there for the HD video. So let's go and see how it does. Alright, so overall this conversion was pretty straightforward. The only thing I soldered was that cable to the Vista, and the only hiccup that I had with this particular conversion was soldering the S-Bus connection, which goes to that plug in the flight controller. And normally that doesn't cause a problem when you have that plus an Express LRS receiver, but for some reason in this particular board, no matter what UART I would hit the Express LRS receiver on, it would go into bootloader mode. And once I desoldered the S-Bus connection from the Vista, it worked fine. So apparently it probably has something to do with the built-in Ghost receiver, and when it detects that there's another receiver, it disables itself, but then now it's seeing two receivers, an S-Bus one and ELRS Crossfire protocol one. Probably gets the whole thing confused, and the Express LRS receiver probably gets a wrong signal and gets confused and goes into bootloader mode. That's what I'm assuming, but that's just something you should know if you're going to be doing this conversion. Just if you're doing a Vista or an O3, some sort of DJI, don't solder on the S-Bus connector, and then you should be good to go. Everything worked fine after that, and as you can see here, the flying is just as expected. Same PID tune. It's slightly heavier. I think exactly about 10 grams heavier overall compared to the analog version, so really no difference in the way it feels, and it flies totally fine. So there's really nothing much more to explain in terms of the flight footage. You can go watch the analog video. I'll link that in the video description. That'll explain pretty much all you need to know about how this flies. I think they tuned it well from the factory, and no difference here with the digital version. So basically what you're going to get here, if you do this conversion from the analog to this digital version, is that digital ready version, or you can get that flight controller and convert it from analog to digital this way. So anyway, I hope that sort of explains everything in terms of how to build the digital version of the DreamX. If you've got any questions, let me know down in the comments below, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video.